Okay, we're getting going here, folks. Hi, Paul. And Rainey just joined us. Hello, Rainey. Donna's here. We're getting set up. Final few minutes here.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, Ian. Hi, Paul.
Okay, let's see, Jennifer is joining us. Don is getting almost ready. Okay, and CJ is on her way, okay. All right, I think we're ready to get started. Welcome, everyone. Last class of Presenting the Path with Don Brown. And just a note that there's no break between classes this time. There's usually a break between modules. We start next Monday with the spiritual teacher. And I believe will be Hemet teaching. Don't quote me on that, but that's the rumor. Don.
Thank you. Yay. Might actually stay. This is the oldest thing in the center, besides me. So let's start out by doing, actually, maybe we'll do 3 prostrations. Good way to start things off. Tibetan tradition. And what page is Refuge and Bodhicitta on? 30? Yeah. 34? Yeah.
Right, page 34 in the Gold Prayer
All
Book.
right. So we'll start out doing the prostrations. I don't get up as quick as I used to, but it's always good to get up quick. You do prostrations, and there are different kinds of prostrations, right? So there's prostrations like just holding your hand like this. That's considered a prostration. Then obviously bowing is another kind of prostration. And then usually what we'll do is we'll do half prostrations at the teachings. So I could demonstrate that too. You start with your hands over your head and sort of touching the crown chakra, and then you think of the forehead chakra, the body, speech, and mind, and then you go down on your hands and your knees, and your head touches the ground, and then you push up, and you do that 3 times. And if you want to add a little juice to it, you're purifying negative karma of body, speech, and mind when you do this. But and it's an antidote to pride, right? Because it's the last thing we want to do is like bow down to something. So everything we do in Buddhism has a reason, and this is a great antidote. Pride is the biggest obstacle to learning anything, because if we think we have all the answers, we're not open to learning new things. So let's all do this together, or if you want, you don't have to, but if you'd like. So we'll do it, and there's a mantra that I could say, well, I will say it. It just is a multiplying mantra. And you can think of it, we're sitting here at the center, and there are these beautiful iconographies, beautiful statues and things like that. But we're paying homage not only to the image of the Buddha in front of what that symbolizes, but also our own potential to become Buddha, our own potential to realize the Dharma, and our own potential to become Sangha. So everything has a meaning, a significance, if we think about it a little more deeply. So Om Namo Manjushriye, Namo Susriye, Namo Uttamashriye Soha. Om Namo Manjushriye, Namo Susriye, Namo Uttamashriye Soha. Om Namo Manjushriye, Namo Susriye, Namo Uttamashriye Soha. So now we'll do the the prayers, refuge and bodhicitta prayers, and I've explained in the other classes. I've explained as a little bit about the refuge and bodhicitta. That prayer, again, the first two lines distinguish people who are Buddhists from non-Buddhists, because Buddhists go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, right? And then within Buddhism, it distinguishes those that we're distinguishing our goal of practice, which is to become a Buddha. So we're practicing the six perfections. So by my practice of giving and the other perfections, those are the Bodhisattva perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. So that's distinguishing us from, within Buddhism, basically the Hinayana or Theravada motivation, which is wonderful, great, it's about individual liberation, amazing, nirvana. But in Mahayana, our goal is to benefit all sentient beings, and that's the ultimate purpose of becoming enlightened. So may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And again, the motivations, the things that we think about before we do this are like dread of the three lower realms, which maybe that doesn't resonate with many of you, but the teachings are there. And basically, they're future lives that can be projected. Literally, we create the cause for them all day long, every day. Whenever we, get angry, well, we think of really heavy negative karma as being the cause for the hell realms. The hungry ghost would be like miserliness or stinginess. And the animal realm would just be like stupidity, just closed-minded stupidity. So we have dread of the lower realms, confidence in the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha. And that takes time, For refuge to really resonate with our heart, mind, we got to have some experience. But in the beginning, we're just practicing. But, I think those of you who are connected to this practice, and the more you practice and the more you see benefit, the stronger your refuge becomes. And then compassion for yourself and others. Those are the motivations for going for refuge. And then four immeasurables are immeasurable love, which is happiness in the causes. And may all sentient beings be free from suffering in its causes. So that's compassion. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that's free from suffering. That's joy. And then may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And that's immeasurable equanimity. And the seven-limb prayer, we haven't talked about it much, but again, just real briefly, I can only give a simple-minded explanation, but reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. So remember, I talked about how doing the prostrations was an antidote to pride. Well, that's what it is. It's a practice of humility. It's an antidote to pride. So prostrating with body, speech, and mind, it becomes an antidote to an obstacle for us to learn. And presenting clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. So, you can imagine all kinds of things that we're offering. But offering sort of opens up the heart, doesn't it? When we give, we experience an opening. And it's also being generous, practicing generosity creates the causes, karmically speaking, for us to be prosperous. So but again, it's an antidote to miserliness, is practicing generosity. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time. So that is the essential factor of purification, is being brutally honest with ourselves about things that we've done that we're not proud of, that we kind of, when we recollect and we might get like a little twinge of, just not happy that we did it. And we all have situations like that we feel regret. So we declare all our negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and not just this life, but all the former lifetimes, because that karma will be ripening in this lifetime and future lifetimes, right? And rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. So this is a quiz question. What is rejoicing an antidote for? I know John knows this. Anybody else want to take a stab? Yeah. What now?
Depression?
No, not really. But it's considered to be an antidote to jealousy. Is rejoicing in somebody else's good, good fortune, you might say, or in our own good fortune. It also, by rejoicing in our virtuous actions, I mean, this is not about chest thumping and stuff like this, but it's not about our ego. It's really acknowledging that we did something positive, and we rejoice, and that creates the causes for us to do that action more often. So rejoicing's has multiple facets. And then please remain until the end of cyclic existence and term the wheel of Dharma for living beings. So that's requesting the gurus to stay and live a long time. It also creates the causes for us to meet qualified teachers in the future. And then lastly, we dedicate our own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. So merit is like brownie points, for lack of a better term, positive karma, these little seeds of virtue that we plant tonight. In the little time that we have left, we will continuously be planting. I'm going to say, depending on our motivation, we could plant like a whole huge field of a garden of wonderful seeds that will ripen in the future. And we want the seeds to ripen not just in some mundane thing like a new house or a car, relationship, something like that. We want these seeds to ripen. We want to dedicate our seeds of virtue to ripen in us becoming a Buddha for the sake of all living beings. So I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. So that's what that's about. So that's my last explanation of those. Anyway, so let's say these together. Again, typically, left hand symbolizes wisdom or female energy. The right hand symbolizes method or male energy. And in the Tibetan tradition, we tuck the thumbs together. It's kind of the union of method and wisdom, but also symbolizes the wish fulfilling our heart. And that helps us. I think it helps us when we hold, other traditions do this too. People hold their hands at their heart, and I think it helps us speak from the heart when we say these prayers. So we'll do this together. The first, obviously, we'll do refuge and bodhicitta 3 times, and then the other prayers just 1 time. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Now the 4 measurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. And we'll do the short mandala offering. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. So we'll start out. I think everybody knows how to do the non-round breathing. And if you don't, I'll explain it one more time briefly. You can use, it's helpful, I think, to use your, occlude one nostril. So what we're going to do is breathe in 3 times in the right nostril and 3 times out the left. And then 3 times in the left and 3 times out the right, and then 3 times in both nostrils and out both nostrils. So, and Geshe recommends using the ring finger because it's connected to the heart in terms of psychic channels and such. So that's a good enough reason to use it. So you can occlude. You occlude your right nostril, and we'll breathe in. So we'll breathe in like. Pardon?
Did we start with the right or left nostril?
I think. Well, it probably doesn't matter. I tell you, let's start occluding the left nostril because this thing is in my way. So occlude the left nostril and breathe in through the right side, and then occlude the right nostril and breathe out the left side. We do that 3 times. And then we'll reverse it, and then we'll breathe out both nostrils. So you do this on your own. You can repeat this one more time. And then we're going to do a little the Tonglen meditation that we did last class. And you can, without making it too complicated, remember, Tonglen means giving and taking. Although oftentimes it's done differently. It's done like taking and giving, but still, Tong means giving and Lin means taking. So, and I mentioned that we don't want to. The giving part has to do with giving happiness and its causes. So that has to do with love, and the taking is taking suffering and its causes. So that has to do with compassion. And if we don't feel connected to someone, we don't want it to take their suffering. So I like giving and taking, even though it seems a little weird. But we're imagining that as we breathe out, all of our body is completely filled with light, just a joyful, kind of pure light. And as we breathe out through our right nostril, we imagine ourselves in the front of at the level of our forehead, like a hologram. We're imagining all the problems that we might be experiencing now, have experienced in the past, will experience in the future. All of that, we're imagining that's us, and it's not just a static image. It's like, even though it's completely made of light, it's vital. It's a living presence. We imagine, using our mind, imagining us as a living presence. And as we breathe out, we're sending ourselves from our heart through our right nostril. We're sending out like this white light that enters your left nostril in front of you and completely fills you with this blissful light of all the positive merit, energy, all that's wanted and needed. You get it. And then you imagine that all your suffering, all the things that you don't want, the suffering you've experienced in the past, maybe things that you're enduring now, and even future suffering. Imagine that in the form of black smoke, and it floats off the surface of your body, it goes out your right nostril, the you in front of you, and it enters your left nostril. And again, you can take multiple breaths to do this. So it comes out and enters, maybe it's right here, and this, after maybe 2 or 3 breaths, maybe the third breath, you breathe in this suffering from you in front. You breathe it into your heart, and it completely destroys your self-cherishing, egocentric mind. And you're full of light and joy and all the positive qualities that you want. Because self-cherishing, your egocentricity has been destroyed. So again, we start with ourselves when we do Tonglen. We imagine we're sending out, love. May I have happiness and its causes. And then we imagine that goes into your left nostril in front of you, and you're filled with joy and white light. All your negative karma is instantly purified. But then now we imagine that all of your suffering, past, present, and future, in the form of black smoke, goes out your right nostril and enters the you sitting here, and there's your left nostril. And again, it goes down to your heart like a bolt of lightning and destroys that, like a rocky mountain of self-cherishing, completely, instantly destroyed. And your body's filled with joyful light. So we do that a few times just to kind of get a feeling. But it's a very powerful way to cultivate love, wishing ourselves and then others, we work with others as well. May I and others be free. May I and others have happiness and its causes. That is love, right? And may I and others be free of suffering and its causes. That's compassion. This is how we're a great way to cultivate love and compassion. We can practice it all day long, anytime, anywhere. People don't have to know what we're doing. We're doing this in our own mind. So we'll do this. You do this on your own for a moment. And after you work with yourself, maybe work with somebody that you feel close to, and then maybe somebody that you feel a little resistance towards, some aversion toward. Maybe it's time to. This is something we have to work up to, right? Let's give it a try. Yeah, so we're thinking, may I have happiness in its causes. And that black smoke comes out of your right nostril, and may I be free of suffering in its causes. And we inhale that. And it enters our left nostril and goes down to our heart and destroys the self-cherishing, egocentric mind. And imagine that, like, our body's completely filled with this blissful white light, pure, full of all that's good, and all the spiritual realizations of the path, symbolized by this white light that permeates our being. And you can work with somebody that you feel close to. Imagine them in front of you. Again, like a hologram, at a body's length in front and as big as you can imagine. Imagine that white light has entered their body and it was completely blissful and free. All the beneficial energy that we sent them has entered their body, and they feel very happy. Their mind's very happy, very blissful. And imagine all their past, present, and future suffering in the form of black light leaving their body, and we breathe it into our heart. Again, same way. And as we breathe it in, it destroys the self-cherishing mind, self-cherishing egocentric mind. And we're completely, filled with this blissful white light. And now we're going to work with some, we could work with neutral people. Sometimes that's good, because the majority of beings are, we feel indifference towards. We don't have a we don't feel attracted or unattracted. They're just sort of faceless people. But we're going to work, I think, maybe with somebody that we have a little bit of resistance to, some aversion toward, maybe. And this is where it's important to just not do these things mindlessly, but think about what you're doing. So you're going to wish somebody that that you ordinarily feel aversion toward. We're going to send them this white light of love. So how's that going to happen? I mean, we have to have sort of a equanimous attitude about them. And one of the ways we can, before we do this, we can remember that, for example, this so-called person we feel aversion to is exactly like we are. They want to be happy, and they do not want to suffer. They're just like we are. We're all exactly the same. Also, it's the reason we label this person so-called an enemy or a person that we feel aversion toward. It's our karma. It's our karma ripening. Where did that come from? Why did all of a sudden, why do we have this label of a person that we feel aversion toward? Well, what goes around comes around. If that's the label that's coming up, then we must have harmed them or others in the past. And then on a real practical level, we talk about this in the 8 verses of mind training, but seeing beings that are difficult as so precious because they give us the opportunity to deepen our practice. It's really independence upon others, particularly difficult people, that we can develop patience, patient endurance. It's not independence upon our friends or people we feel close to, but it's these challenging people that allow us, give us the opportunity, this precious opportunity. We call them, sometimes we think of, it's helpful to label these people, these beings, as like a gift from the guru. They're like a guru. They're teaching us how to be patient. Or maybe they're teaching us the fact that we don't have patience and it's something we need to work on. But it's only in dependence upon difficult people that we can develop patience. Without patience, particularly the perfection of patience, there are no bodhisattvas. Without bodhisattvas, those beings who've realized bodhicitta, the awakening mind, there are no Buddhas. And so it's in dependence upon this person we label as we feel aversion toward, that even the possibility of full enlightenment even exists. So again, now maybe we soften a little bit toward this person that we've labeled. We imagine them in front of us, and a hologram made of light, but like a living presence. And we send them from our heart through our right nostril and into their left nostril all this positive energy of our merit and good karma and wishing them well, and thinking, may they have happiness and its causes. May they have happiness and its causes. And of course, love is the antidote to anger. So we're practicing the antidote. And imagine that they receive this white light and energy, and their body's completely filled with that blissful white light, and they experience the joy and the freedom that comes with that. And then we imagine that their past, present, and future suffering in the form of black smoke goes out their right nostril and enters our left nostril. And again, this doesn't have to be done with one inhalation. It's more important to understand what we're doing, that we're it's along with taking in the smoke comes the thought, may you be free of suffering and its causes. May you be free of suffering and its causes. So that's compassion. So we do that, and then we take that into our heart and destroy our self-cherishing. And as we take that into our heart and destroys our self-cherishing attitude, imagine that your body is and mind are filled with this blissful, positive energy that comes from the destruction of the selfish, self-cherishing mind. And just let your mind rest with that experience for a moment. So I'm gonna read this. These are my notes from a teaching that I attended on the 8 verses of mind training 30 years ago, probably close to it. And I remember I went through the notes and I crystallized what was being said. And this is, you remember the 8 verses of mind training, it's kind of like a wake-up call, isn't it? It's really so different, but it's so antithetical to our ordinary way of thinking, because it really is about, it's about the whole path. The whole path's subsumed in these teachings. But as I read through these notes that I took, it's also clear that it's sort of identifying and coming up with strategies to weaken the self-cherishing mind, which is our biggest enemy. So I'll read this because you guys at home don't have it. And I'll just, if you have any questions or if you want to debate it, I'm happy to do it. But here we go. If you want happiness in this life, the only possible way is serving others. Anybody got a problem with that? If you want happiness in this life, the only possible way is serving others. Serve even those that attack you. Devote your life to giving others what they want and need. Reality is constructed this way. That's a question, isn't it? That's an assertion. Reality is constructed this way. We can talk about that. The wisdom of emptiness and reality makes this the only logical choice. So let me just say a little bit about this, and I'll come back and visit it. But one way to think about it is that, so he's saying, the wisdom of emptiness and reality make this the only logical choice. So, serving others, the only logical choice. Maybe I'll come back to it. All right, then the next point. We need to reach the point in our personal spiritual practice where we focus on others' good qualities. In reality, there's swimming in good qualities. This is the first step to taking care of others. How much time do we spend bad-mouthing other people and finding fault? I mean, a lot, right? We're constantly judging and criticizing. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, as human beings, we judge. It's normal to, to discriminate, judge, and so forth. We have a tendency, and it happens to be a bad habit that most of us have, is to find fault in other people and then focus on that. So he said the best way to take care of others is to focus on their good qualities. What a wonderful thought to do that, even for just one day. So we need to reach the point in our personal spiritual practice where we focus on others' good qualities. In reality, they're swimming in good qualities. This is the first step in taking care of others. Remember, when we talk about the 8 verses of mind training, I mean, cherishing others is such a big part of it. It's the first step. It's just practically day in, day out, focusing on other people's good qualities, giving them a break, giving them a little grace to be imperfect, to have faults and flaws. We don't have to, and it's not our business to point out everybody's problems and then help correct them, right? Then this next one's a good one. Create a special relationship with people who are nasty to you. Create a special relationship to people who are nasty to you. We just did this, didn't we? One good enemy at work is more precious than the Dalai Lama for you. We will learn more from adversity than 10 days of teachings from the Dalai Lama. So this goes back to the 8 verses. Remember how we look at difficult situations as like a teacher. The Dalai Lama can give us a lot of words, and the words, but depending on, I happen to be a leaky pot where the words go in one ear and out the other. Depending on maybe the Dalai Lama's teachings are really wonderful, but one good enemy at work is more precious than the Dalai Lama for you. This is what was taught. So again, we need to find people who are nasty to you, because we need those people to develop our spiritual, our practice, to develop inner strength. We don't develop inner strength and dependence upon having it easy. We need challenges. We need difficult people and difficult circumstances to develop inner strength. We'll learn more from adversity than 10 days of teachings from the Dalai Lama. Next, look at the people you live with as your ticket to enlightenment. Look at the people you live with as your ticket to enlightenment. Wonder what that means. Yeah. I mean, those are the people that we judge the most. Those are the people that we're the most, that we're usually the harshest because they love us. We know they're not going to leave probably. And we tend to be more judgmental and more critical and a little bit harsher with the people that are close to us, that we live in and day out, than strangers. We'd be embarrassed to talk to other people the way we might talk to our children, for example, or to our people in our family. We wouldn't do that. So look at the people you live with as your ticket to enlightenment. Next point. If you cannot, this one's a really good one. If you cannot get rid of the habit of taking care of yourself first above what others need, you won't succeed in achieving happiness. Now, I'm waiting for somebody to debate me on this, but it sure rings true to me. If you cannot get rid of the habit of taking care of yourself first, above what others need, you won't succeed in achieving happiness. I can remember my first Dharma course a long time ago, because I'm old. And I remember there were like 200 people there, and everybody had to take their shoes off before they walked into this. Basically, it was a shed, with mats on the ground. It was nasty, and burlap for walls and a tin roof, and 200 people stuffed in there. And I remember we all had to put our shoes, and I was, at the beginning of the course, I wanted to make sure my shoes were near the beginning so I could easily find them. And I realized as the course developed, I realized, hey, that's me wanting to be first. That's my egocentric mind wanting to be the best, wanting to have the best, wanting to be first. So then I started moving I said, just to train myself, I'm going to put my shoes at the end of the line. It took me about halfway through the course to realize that this egocentric mind was the one that wanted to be at the beginning of the line, and I needed to retrain myself. So if you can't get rid of the habit of taking care of yourself first above what others need, you won't succeed in achieving happiness. So, I'm just challenging it. These are very, very powerful assertions, and you should question these. Is this really true? And if you don't think it's true, look deeply. Maybe it's not true for you, but I would assert it's true for all of us. Next one. Anytime you have a relationship with somebody else, they should come out ahead. The loss yourself and give them all the gain. To the extent that you're able to, give everything you can to others. Make a career of it. Now that's a little bit harsh. Remember? Anytime you have a relationship with someone else, they should come out ahead. What does our ego want? We want to be right. We want to win. We want to dominate. Ego doesn't want to come out behind. We don't want others to be ahead of us. This is verse number 5. When out of envy others mistreat me with abuse, insults, the like, I accept defeat and offer the victory to them. Now, in the Dalai Lama's commentary on this verse was that, there may be a situation where it's not appropriate, it's not wise, it's not skillful to let others be first, or dominate us, or, whatever. And so, we may not, when it's taking the loss, there's more benefit for us taking the loss than not, then we should take the loss. Let others win. No, what's the big deal? But there may be situations where us taking loss, in the bigger picture of it, causes more harm than good. And in those situations, like we shouldn't sacrifice our health necessarily, just to make a point. There's stories in the scripture, where Buddhist saints would, offer their eyeball for the teachings. We shouldn't do stuff like that. But at anytime you have a relationship with somebody else, they should come out ahead. Take the loss yourself and give them all the gain, to the extent that you're able to give everything you can to others. To the extent that you're able to, give everything you can to others. Make a career of it. And then the last one is, and this is a good one too. Again, not what ego wants, not what self-cherishing wants. Just decide that you're going to be last. Last in line, always last. Put your shoes at the end of the line. For me, that was when I realized this. I said, "Man, I've been so, I'm really lost." Last in line, always last. Try it. This practice can immediately make you happy. It's letting others be first. Try it for just 10% of the day today. All right. So again, just decide you're going to be last. Last in line, always last. Try it. This practice can immediately make you happy. So you kind of get the theme here, don't you? That this is totally, every one of these verses that I'm reading is like attack. Not, I guess in a way it's attacking, but it's like pointing out the vulnerability and the flaws of self-cherishing selfishness. Something we need to get rid of. Annabelle, can you pass her the microphone? Yeah. You need to.
Hello, is it working?
Yeah, hold it close to your mouth.
Okay, so I feel like it's easier to just accept being last because there's not so much anxiousness when you're like rushing to be first. Do you agree with that? I feel like it's easy for me at least.
Yeah. Well, you know what? There are situations where let me think about this for a minute. I mean, for some people, being last is easier, but maybe the motivation for being last is maybe fear or lack of self-confidence or, something that's not necessarily good. The point of this line of being last is that we notice our impulse to want to be first, to want to win, we want to dominate, our instinct is not to be last. And so we need to notice that instinct of wanting to be first and wanting to be the best and wanting to win and dominate and so forth, and confront it and actually choose to be last. So we could choose to be last out of like fear and lack of self-confidence, which is not exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about confronting our instinct to want to be first, to want to be most important one, and confronting that. Does that make sense, Annabelle? Yeah. So this will be, I'm going to let you post this online if you don't mind. If you can print it up and post it, I'll give it to you. Does anybody, wait a minute, before we go, does anybody have any comments or questions or I want to clarify some of the things I said that are not real clear?
there's anyone online who would like to debate with Don,
Well, no, or
or
just say whatever whatever
offer
came
a
to mind for
comment or
you.
have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat
All
or
right.
just unmute.
I may not answer it, by the way. I'll let John answer it.
I'd like to invite a little debate on one.
Okay.
Actually, I think the first one, for happiness in this lifetime, put others first. Is it? Maybe you can read it so I don't.
Yeah,
try
yeah.
to paraphrase it.
If you want happiness in this life, the only possible way is serving others. Serve even those that attack you. Devote your life to giving others what they want and need. Reality is constructed that way. The wisdom of emptiness, or reality, makes this the only logical choice. That's number one.
Yeah, I agree with almost all of that. And maybe I'm just asking about technicality.
About what? Okay.
Maybe maybe this is just a technicality, but it's often, it seems like teachers often talk about how it's possible to have a lot of virtue from the past lives ripen in this life as a lot of pleasure. And if we sort of see that as happiness, then we can sort of bask in that.
Right.
And I don't think there's really anything to stop that sometimes. So if we cherish others, we might actually, become irritable and, depending on what we're practicing now, we might actually not get happiness from that.
Yeah.
And it's also discussed that normally karma from the distant past can ripen first. So it might very well be, a long time in this life or maybe even future lives when the virtue actually ripens from our current practice of benefiting others. So I'm wondering how that sort of resolves to that statement.
It's a good question, John. Well, I think, all right, I'm going to make something up here real quick. I do get what you're saying about karma. Right now, and let's just talk about, like, for example, right in this very moment, what you're seeing, what we're all individually seeing, is a karmic projection. You get what I mean by that? It's like there's nothing out there that exists independent of my mind labeling it. It's all a karmic projection. So one way of thinking about it, I mean, this is a very dumbed down way, but it's a very profound way to think about it, is there's nothing that exists inherently in and of itself out there independent of the mind labeling it, okay? So it's like a blank slate. It's like a stage with nobody on it, or a screen with nothing on it. Now, right now, what you see and what you hear and your experiences, all the five aggregates, whatever your experiences of the moment, that's the ripening of what? Billions of karmic seeds ripening in this moment to force us on this screen, which is blank, which is empty of inherent existence, is forcing us to see ourselves at Kadampa Center, having a good time, boring, not so boring. But so if we want to be forced by our karma to see ourselves as happy, how do we do that? We all want it, don't we? We want happiness, we don't want to suffer. How do we get that? We get that through serving others. And so maybe, to your point, John, it may be that, the happiness that we're talking about here is not about pleasure. It's about joy, this sort of spiritual happiness that we're looking for. If we want that kind of peace and satisfaction and joy, that kind of happiness, the only possible way is serving others. I think serving others is sort of a cooperative cause for the karma in the past that is positive karma that could cause happiness to arise. That would be my one explanation. I don't know if I can't prove it, but it seems right that serving others, because it does seem that people who serve others really in their heart, from a heart of hearts place, do seem to be happier, wouldn't you say? And selfish people seem to be the most miserable ones. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, I was definitely going to agree with that. So it sounds like maybe the definition of happiness is really important, because I can definitely see in times of my life when I was more focused on others, I did feel more at peace, and my things like impatience were softened. And
Yeah.
yeah, there are a lot of ways other than defining it as pleasure in which I definitely see that.
Yeah.
So,
And happiness does, and pleasure does bring happiness, but how long does it last?
yeah, it's all too easy to get addicted to it. And that's
And it's like a flash of lightning in the night sky. It's just impermanent. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point right there, Don, because I can experience happiness, bliss, by being completely on my own at the top of a mountain, or not, or just by a creek in the woods, and just feel like complete joy, happiness, peace, and bliss without any kind of serving of others. It's just me and myself, right? And that way, maybe I'm serving the heart of me or my own spirit. But if I lived completely in hermitude, knowing how much, and I am a firm believer of the two wings of compassion, which involves other human beings, and emptiness. Because without humans, we really, really wouldn't be able to cultivate our compassion. So if I was a hermit, how much would I be able to develop and cultivate my compassion? But I can imagine, and I do when I am alone, without serving others, I can experience bliss, happiness, joy, and peace. But I wonder how happy a complete hermit would be, without any kind of service to others, like hermits, even like Buddhist hermits living on the side of the mountain. Like, do they not experience happiness, joy, peace, and bliss?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And how do they work with that if they're not around others serving them?
Well, a part of it, this may sound a little bizarre, but, like there's this place up in Dharamsala, India, where the Dalai Lama lives, and there's about you have to walk about a mile up behind McLeod up into the mountains, in the foothills of the Himalayas there. And you go about a mile or two, and there are all these hermitages. Some of these monks have been there for 20 or more years by themselves. But their practice is motivated by what? Bodhicitta. It's motivated by serving others. And, and even though they're not serving others in that moment, they're training their mind to be that way. So when the opportunity arises, they can serve others, and they can also teach others from their experience and so forth. So I do get, and I've heard, and I've even seen this in Thailand, where, again, the motivation is individual liberation, but just incredibly bliss and joy from spiritual practice. Because if you don't harm others, you're a special person. If you can really help others, or at least not harm them, that's a big deal. And so spiritual practice, spiritual happiness is what we want. And at least we can see in our experience that serving others does seem to be one way to find joy. Even if you're not even a spiritual person, but in your heart, when you sincerely like to be in service, a lot of people get addicted to that. There's a lot of worse things to get addicted to than being in service to others. So, yeah.
But service to others being the only way that you can experience happiness. I don't know.
I know it's a little bit of a. Well, it's more. I guess I would say this is more from a Mahayana Buddhist perspective. That if you want happiness, the happiness we're talking about is the happiness of a Buddha. Then the only way you're going to get it is by serving others. All right. Anybody out there got some Anything?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Paul.
It just seems like it's all an illusion anyways, right? I mean, it's between going with the what do you call it? The well, it's all an illusion, right?
It's all an illusion. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
It's all an illusion. See, that's an interesting point. Say more about that. Why is it all illusion? Because this mala, is that an illusion or is this real?
Well,
Are you
it's
an illusion or are you real?
well, it's I guess it's an illusion. It's going back to nothingness and seeing. I don't know.
Well, let me go off on that point just to say one more thing, because I don't, I know this whole notion that everything's an illusion. I hear people say that, and my teachers, and the Dalai Lama makes a real point of this, that things have an illusory nature, but it's more like they're like an illusion. They're not nothing. They're like an illusion. Okay, so one way of thinking about this is that when we look, and you look at this rosary, you think, well, this is sort of like, it looks like anybody who saw this would recognize it as a rosary, right?
Right.
Anybody who saw it. A dog, a baby, I don't care, whatever, but they would recognize it as a rosary. But no, they won't. Not everybody will recognize it as a rosary because they don't have the karmic imprints to see it that way. But just to see it, it does appear to be real. It does appear to have, we use the terms inherent existence from its own side. Like anybody who walked in would see it. That's a rosary. Like it's almost like shouting rosary. This is a pen. It's shouting pen. Like everybody would recognize that, right? That's how we view reality. It seems like it exists independently, inherently, in and of itself, and that's how it is. And in Buddhism, we call that the object of refutation. The Tibetan word for it is gaccha. Gaccha. It's not that way. And how do we prove it? We prove it by what's called the dependent arising. This is the Buddhist. The Dalai Lama said if the Buddha had a slogan, if it was written on walls, on flags, and waved in the air, and it would be dependent arising. What does that mean? Dependent arising proves that things don't exist inherently. How do they exist? This sounds so simplistic, it's silly, but exist in dependence upon causes and conditions. So a rosary, somebody went out and got the beads and made the rosary and the string and everything, and it exists in dependence upon causes and conditions. But that's karma. We think of everything exists, arises, or comes into existence in dependence upon causes and conditions. That's the first element of dependent arising. The second element is everything exists in dependence upon its parts. Okay? Everything, now you got to we're talking, it sounds like a semantic game, but it's not. And then everything exists in dependence upon the mind that labels it. Okay? So everything exists interdependently. right? You get, when I say it exists in dependence upon, I'm implying it exists interdependently, and independence upon causes and conditions, parts, and a labeling consciousness. It doesn't exist independently, which is how it appears to our mind. Because it doesn't take a genius to figure out. I mean, if that's all that the Buddha had to say, was that things exist upon causes and conditions, parts, and a labeling consciousness, that's not really very profound, is it? Where it makes it profound is that it proves that things don't exist inherently, independently, which is how we see it. So when we go and look for this thing called gotcha, this notion of an inherently self-existent I or other, when we go and look for it and we can't find it, we go, wow. For example, we thought there was a robber, a thief in the Kadampa Center. And we all knew that. We heard it, and when we came in here, we looked everywhere. We couldn't find the thief. We looked for the thief, and we couldn't find it. And we say, Kadampa Center, I couldn't find it. There was something that I thought was there, but I couldn't find it. Kadampa Center's empty of thief. We are empty of a self-existent, inherently existent I. We do exist, but is as if like an illusion. We say things are merely labeled. They're just merely labeled by mind. They do exist, but they're just merely labeled. They're not inherently existent. And it's not easy for me to explain it. I'm not doing a great job, but I'm doing my best at the moment. But it's the most important thing in all of Buddhism, because it's the antidote. The wisdom of emptiness is the antidote to all of our problems. Selfishness, what ignorance projects is a false sense of self, and we cling to that false sense of self, and it's a dependence upon that creates all the problems. Anger, jealousy, pride, you name it. All of the delusions are predicated on this false sense of I that the Buddha would say does not exist. It's a projection of ignorance. And we have to get to a point where we see that we do exist, but in dependence upon a body and mind. We're just merely labeled. We're just merely labeled I, not inherently existent I. And there's a world of difference. And how do we prove it? Through the reasoning of dependent arising. Sounds a little hard to bite off on the last evening, but there's a whole module on emptiness. So this gets revisited in every class. And by the way, the Dalai Lama, whenever he teaches, he always teaches emptiness first, even before he starts teaching about compassion and bodhicitta and stuff like that, because he thinks, and I think this is true. He's said this many times. He said that it is understanding how we project a false sense of reality, and then we cling to it and grasp to it. And then the reasoning of dependent arising. He said, most people who are reasonably intelligent and put some effort into it can understand emptiness, can have an intellectual understanding of emptiness, and can see that, wow, if I could just see through this illusion of self. So when somebody said, Don, you're an ass, or somebody attacked me, and I didn't react because I went, well, they're just attacking this illusory self. There's no I that exists there's no I to get angry. And also that I that wants to cling and possess things doesn't exist. So there's a lot of freedom there. There's a lot of freedom when we can see through the illusion of self. So so the Dalai Lama, getting back to this thing, he says that if we can see the power of the understanding of emptiness and how that could set us free and have some confidence in that, because that's really, these teachings are we can validate these through our own experience. He says when we get confidence in the teachings on emptiness, then we're more open to the teachings that we cannot prove. Like, for example, karma. We cannot 100% prove karma, can we? We can't prove that everything is a karmic projection. We can't prove that past lifetimes. We can't prove future lifetimes. There's so much in Buddhism that we have to take on faith. But if we can have strong faith, or at least an understanding of emptiness and develop some faith in that, then we're more open to having faith in these teachings on karma and past and future lifetimes, which are so helpful to developing our mind. And they're part of the Buddhist teachings.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to do, is connect it to emptiness. Thank you.
Pardon?
I was trying to connect it to emptiness, illusion, but I appreciate you did a much better job than I, so thank you.
Well, I don't know, but I did the best I could.
We've got about 12 minutes
All right.
left, Don. just to
12
keep you
minutes.
on
Oh, my
track.
goodness. Well, that's great. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Let's read through the 8 verses of mind training.
Can I say something?
Sure, go
You
ahead.
did a great job right there, because I did take the emptiness module, and Heywan, he did an amazing job at teaching that class. But I felt like in that few minutes you summed it up pretty darn good, and I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
I
You're
definitely
welcome.
resonated with. I was like, it took that module to take it last year, and then you summarizing it like that to really help me. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll tell you, these I don't really I understand it at some level, but what I'm doing is just parroting what my teachers have said to the best of my knowledge. So let's read through the 8 verses of mind training, because it's good to have these imprints in our mind, and then we can talk about how much time we got? Oh, we got just a few minutes. Yeah, we'll read and then we'll read the 3 principal aspects of the path. It's good just to have the imprints in our mind, even if we don't understand all the meanings of the words and teachings. So, all right, 8 verses of mind training. Determined to obtain the greatest possible benefit from all sentient beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, I hold them most dear at all times. Got that? So, it's independence upon others that we can develop all the qualities. The Bodhisattva, the 6 perfections, generosity and ethics and patience and enthusiastic perseverance. All of those are done in dependence upon others. So we hold others as dear, which is not our typical way of thinking. Wherever I am and whoever I'm with, I always consider myself lowest of all, and from the depths of my heart, hold others dear and supreme. So this is, again, getting back to that notion of and this is the antidote to self-cherishing, isn't it? Self-cherishing doesn't want to see me as lowest of all. We want to see ourselves as special, and this is an antidote to that. This verse, of course, is much deeper than that. And His Holiness went on and on about it, but that's the essence of it. It's an antidote to our self-cherishing selfishness. In all actions, I examine my mental continuum, and the minute a delusion arises, since it endangers myself and others, I forcefully confront and avert it. All right? So this has to do with being mindful all the time, 24/7, because 24/7, every second, we're constantly planting karmic seeds. And we want to plant seeds of virtue because they will ripen in happiness. Those seeds will ripen in us literally being forced to see ourselves as happy. How good can it get? And, so But we have to catch ourselves when we're going down one of those rabbit holes of negativity. So we examine our mental continuum, and the minute a delusion, anger, fear, jealousy, stressed out, pride, whatever it is, we recognize it and we apply the antidote. What is the ultimate antidote? Emptiness, meditation on emptiness. But not many of us can go to our Dharma medicine cabinet and pull out a realization of emptiness and solve our problems in that moment. We can certainly see that things are impermanent, that they're constantly changing, so even difficult times don't last. They come and they come into existence and then they pass, okay? Also, we can use, for example, teachings like, for example, on patience. When we have a difficult, like a negative mind state arises and we go, I hate this person, they're so mean to me. And we go, wait a minute, it's my own karma coming back to me. I created the karma to have this experience come back to me. I'm not a victim. This is a ripening of my own former actions. Maybe not things I did in this life, but nonetheless, a karmic ripening. And it's forcing me to experience myself as having, whatever negative experience I'm having. Okay? So we have to really struggle against these things. And instead of, now the other way to do it is just maybe sometimes the negative mind state is not that strong. And so all we have to do is just relax and connect with our breath or our body or being present in the moment. Disappears. And it goes right away. And we don't have to struggle with it. Sometimes we have to struggle with really heavy negative mind states. We need to use all of our, this is the whole Lojong teachings. That there's a whole module on Lojong, which is called thought transformation, right? So we need to recognize, be mindful of when these negative mind states arise, and then forcefully confront and avert them so they don't take us down, create more negative karma and more suffering. Whenever I see sentient beings who are wicked in nature and overwhelmed by negative actions and heavy suffering, I shall hold such rare ones dear as if I'd found a precious treasure. So that was going back to, we talked about how difficult people are, in some ways, people that are nasty to us and give us a hard time can teach us more than 10 days of teaching from the Dalai Lama. So we need, and it's independence upon these difficult people that we can develop our spiritual practice and develop the depth to develop the depth. And I think the depth and so I'll leave it at that. When out of envy others mistreat me and with abuse, insults, and the like, I accept defeat and offer the victory to them. All right, so this would be, again, this has to do with the practice of patience and also, again, self-cherishing egocentricity does not want to play this game. We do not want to offer the victory to others. That's the last thing ego wants to do. And when someone whom I've benefited and who I have great hopes gives me terrible harm, I regard them as my virtuous friend. Again, I remember one of the last times I traveled to Asia, and one of the students that I was studying with, he said, I made a commitment to myself that every time a difficulty arose, I would see it as a gift from the Guru, as a teaching from the Guru. And this is really a powerful way to go about our life, to see every obstacle as an opportunity to deepen our spiritual practice and a gift from the Guru. Like Lama Yeshe's giving me this illness or this difficult situation or this difficult whatever it is as a gift from the Guru. All right. In short, both directly and indirectly, I offer every happiness and benefit to all my mothers, and I secretly take upon myself all their harms and suffering. Well, that's Tonglen, isn't it? That's the practice of giving and taking. giving, may you have happiness and its causes. That's love. That's Buddhist definition of love. May you have happiness and its causes. And then, may you be free of suffering and its causes. That's the taking. And that's the definition of compassion. So again, loving kindness and compassion. And then the last line, also, and this has to do with emptiness and the 8 worldly concerns. But the 8 worldly concerns are all predicated on self-cherishing, right? And selfishness. Also, I do not defile all these practices with the stains of this. Wait a minute, let me say this. Also, I do not defile all these practices with the stains of the superstitions of the 8 worldly concerns, and by knowing all phenomena to be illusory, and more like an illusion. They're not illusions, but they're like an illusion. Without trusting in them, I'm freed from bondage. So without trusting appearances, because things appear one way and they exist another way. We established that. When we understand dependent arising and this wrong way of seeing things as being inherently existent, when we understand that, we don't trust appearances anymore. We don't get sucked in to anger and jealousy and pride and all the rest. And then the 8 worldly concerns, I've got them listed over here, but basically, Ajahn Buddhadasa, he was a Thai Buddhist monk that I got to meet before. He was like very, very old, but he was considered to be a saint. And he said it the best of anybody I've ever seen. He said, we're all addicted to deliciousness. We want only what's good. And we hate or feel aversion toward things that are the opposite of what's good. So everything on this side is the things that we feel aversion toward. And on the other side are things that we are addicted to deliciousness. We cling, we crave those things. And so the more we crave what's delicious, the more we suffer when we get the opposite. And furthermore, if we crave what's delicious and we don't have it, you're always yearning for it. And when we get the opposite, we suffer tremendously. When we have something and we lose it, and we're attached to it, we suffer even more. So it's that's about it. That's the 8 that's the eight verses of mind training. And everybody's read the 3 principal aspects of the path. I'm sure you memorized that. So we'll wrap it up. And by the way, I actually have maybe I'll we can make a copy of this. This is the, I shouldn't do this, but it's the answer key to the questions. There was an exam that we could have taken, but it's the answer key to the summary of this module. So it's 4 or 5 pages. It's kind of cool. So we can make a copy of it and post it. Hopefully I won't get berated by it. But now's the time to wrap it up. So we need to say the dedication verses. So I'm going to say thank you for those of you who are online who've made the effort to carve out some of your busy lives to be here, and certainly the people that are here in person, and Lisa and our Bodhisattva Chris back there, who's been here so many times. Let's give Lisa and Chris a hand. Thank you for all that you do, really for so long, and makes a huge difference. And that's so let's dedicate the virtues. Let's go to Shantideva's
Page
prayer.
246 in the gold prayer book.
And we want to dedicate all the positive karma. Again, we think of these are like seeds of virtue that will definitely ripen in the future, and they will ripen in what we want them to do is ripen in spiritual happiness, and the kind of happiness that lasts, and the kind of happiness that gives us joy and a real sense of levity and openness, and what we really want in our heart of hearts, right? So we'll do this on page 246. And at least that's one place it is. Are you seeing it somewhere else? All right, everybody got this? So, may all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer or commit evil or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with the mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing and the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May they be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from the ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and may those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Amen. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Remember, there's no off week. We start the spiritual teacher next Monday night. So if you
By the way,
haven't-
I will say this. This is because I never mentioned this, and I've been scolded about not saying something about it. But Kadampa Center does exist for one reason: is to benefit the community, and it totally depends upon people's generosity. People's generosity, like Lisa and Chris being generous with their time, you being generous with your time to show up, and also all the volunteers that work here as well, but also your financial generosity, your money, whatever you're capable of giving, helps keep the lights on too. So there's so many ways to give here, and I want to thank everybody for their generosity and invite them to continue to be generous in whatever way you can to keep the precious Dharma alive, because that is so important. We need the Dharma. The world needs the Dharma more now than ever before. So, amen.
All right, thank you, Don.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Don.